All right, I think it's official. We're live. Happy Friday. It's March 29th, 2019.
Happy Friday.
Yay.
What?
Happy Friday.
Oh, for some reason I thought you said 27th, and I was like, no, it's the 29th. I don't know why
Birthday.
it's 42.
It's your birthday?
39. One can wish.
Oh, kids today. It looks like Gina has joined us in the live feed on Facebook.
Yeah.
Good morning, Gina. Good morning, Andrea. Good morning, everyone. Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike.
Ricky and Mike.
Anyway, exciting week this week. I started my own social network. So this was interesting. I think it's going to die as quickly as it started, too. We started this discussion. I started this discussion because I had a bit of frustration around the fact that Google wouldn't help me out with this page, this imposter who decided they wanted to put my name and brand all over this page, and then they had their own videos on it. And I don't even know what they were trying to accomplish. I mean, I guess they were trying to grab some of my traffic, right? And then hope to get some people to go. There wasn't even like a link to their site, though. You had to read the copy to see like what the name of their site was, where they apparently have accounting videos. But here's the funniest part of it is, I don't know if any of you actually clicked over and watched the video that was on the page. The guy had a very pleasant British accent, but he was as boring gets. It was horrible. I was like, this guy is helping me. If he steals any of my traffic, he's only going to confirm they should go find the real me. It really was so bad. It was so boring. Clicked over to his YouTube channel just to see where this was all kind of coming from, and I think he has like 4 subscribers on his YouTube channel, which again goes back to affirmation that the guy was just boring. I mean, you're talking about accounting. It's not the most exciting, sexy topic to begin with. So it's easy to make it worse. This guy accomplished that. He made an already potentially boring topic really boring. So. That was what I saw years ago when I went out onto YouTube and I started looking around to see, is anybody doing like QuickBooks tutorial videos? And there were very few out there at that time. The few that were like college professors, where it really was like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It was like Bueller, anyone, bank rec, reconcile, bank feed, anyone, just like that for like 45 minutes. Yeah.
It's Sarah Laidlaw's birthday today.
Yes, we covered that. Happy birthday, Sarah Laidlaw.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. She's 35.
35.
58.
Nuh-uh.
No way. I don't believe it.
58.
I don't believe
Well,
it.
as long as you keep saying that, I'll keep telling people how old I am.
I don't believe it.
Can't believe you're that old, Sarah. No way.
Don't call that old.
60.
Hey,
60.
I'm turning 60 this year, so.
It's a good,
wow.
a good
I
age.
didn't say old.
It's a good age. Yeah.
No, you're like, I mean, your mind is sharp. You look great. No way.
It's sharp.
I just turned 69 last week.
Oh my God.
Oh, happy birthday, Dennis.
Wow. I
I
didn't.
just tell people I'm pushing 60 from the top down.
That's the whole group here today.
That's funny. That is funny. I'm turning 60 too. Very soon.
You're a baby. You're just a pup. Just a
Whoa.
pup.
Whoa. All right. So in other news,
Other news?
I'm about ready to launch something kind of exciting. I've been playing with this for a little while. Kajabi.
The platform made for your practice. That looks good.
Oh, you're looking at the 97 and up page.
Oh.
You're looking at this.
What did you want us to see?
My screen?
Oh, where's that?
I don't know. It's on your computer somewhere.
Let's see. Oh, there it is. There you go.
So I'm going to be moving all of my courses over to Kajabi because Kajabi, I've looked at a few of these learning management systems. This one is by far my favorite. But I'm already about to go live with the first section of the first new course here. It's a bookkeeping course. It's called Bulletproof Bookkeeping. The title's actually a little longer than that. It's the Business Owner's Bulletproof Bookkeeping course, but rest assured, it has its benefits for accountants too. And the first piece of it is going live this week. I had recorded a bunch of the content, and this weekend I'll be editing and publishing it all to the platform. So section 1 will go live this week. And what I'm doing while it's in development is I'm making the promise that I will roll out new content every single week, so that if you sign up, you'll get new content every week until the whole course is rolled out. While I'm rolling out the content, there's a coupon code right here at checkout, Bulletproof. That'll get you $500 off the price, which would otherwise be $997. So this is not included in any other subscription. This is a standalone course, and it's lifetime access. So when people sign up, they get this course for life. No monthly subscriptions, none of that stuff. So check it out. If you're interested, please share it with others. I will be happy to pay referral fees if you refer people who sign up for the course. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere in Kajabi where I can set up an affiliate program. So that's going to be something else I'm going to look at setting up this weekend. So if you're interested in getting paid to refer people to sign up for this course, let me know, and I'll make sure I invite you into the affiliate program once it's been set up. Then, of course, there is always 97 and up, which is aimed at accountants and bookkeepers. And it's $1 for the first week. You can try it out. Try us out. 97 and up, $1. We do 2 calls a week like this, deep dives, and then Slack conversations all week long. Greg, how much are we learning about ClickUp just from our weekly interactions?
I was contemplating that, and I personally, and it's a good thing, have probably spent 12 plus hours just interacting with 97 and up members on ClickUp.
Yeah.
Over the last few weeks.
Yeah, we've logged a ton of hours on ClickUp, just learning every little thing it does, and figuring it all out, figuring out some really cool stuff. We figured out yesterday on our call, went over a process where it's a really cool process where you can go into a transaction in QuickBooks Online and basically create a task out of that transaction with a screenshot and a link to that transaction, so that you can very quickly and easily have the discussion with your client about that transaction and where it should go and what it should do and all of that good stuff. So definitely check out 97 and up. So today we're talking about OneNote, and here's the story on OneNote. The original digital notebook that I used was OneNote many years ago. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I was using OneNote. In fact, I don't know if this is even still around, but Microsoft used to have this Action Pack subscription where you would pay, I want to say it was like $400 a year or something, and they would send you these thick binders filled with CDs of every software application they offered. And they wanted you to learn as much of it as you could and become a partner and a reseller and sell the stuff to people, right? I paid for it because it included Microsoft Office for free and a bunch of other things, a few other things that I knew of that I liked and wanted. But the main reason I did it was just to get the software. So one day I was in my office and I said, I want to see what else is in here, right? And I go in, and at the time I was just starting to play with making videos. And so I was kind of into, I was thinking about, that I wasn't using anything I didn't know about Camtasia yet, and I wasn't using anything to edit videos. I was just using Adobe Connect, which was the web conferencing software I was using in those days. And I would record my screen the same as I would if I actually had a live webinar going on. And I would just throw that up, and that would be my video. There was no editing. I would just record it and throw it up. And so I was interested in finding out more about what software was out there to edit and other things. The problem is Adobe Connect's video file format was a .flv file. It was like a Flash video file, but the quality was terrible. So if you tried to bring it into anything to edit it, it wasn't even worth it. So as I'm going through these programs, I see something called OneNote, and my first thought was maybe this is like a music kind of app where I can create audio tracks and things and put music on my videos. So that was the original reason why I checked it out. And then I installed it, and I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, this has nothing to do with music. I was thinking musical note, OneNote, right? And then as I start exploring, I realized, oh, crap, this is an actual digital notebook. And I fell in love, completely shifted gears mentally from a musical app to, holy cow, I can see this being incredibly useful. Because in those days, I was still going on site to a lot of clients, and there was a lot to keep track of in terms of where was I at, what was I working on, and so on and so forth. So I started realizing this is cool because you have a notebook, and then you have sections within a notebook, and then you have pages within sections. So I can really be detailed and organized about how I keep track of information for my clients, right? And so I quickly fell in love. And then as time evolved and we started getting more and more of these applications and started moving, in those days it really wasn't even called the cloud yet, but just moving more towards being able to access things on a mobile device. In those days I had a Windows mobile device, this big, huge, it was like the VX6600 from Verizon or something. And it was Windows Mobile was the platform. It was the first one. It was either that or you were using like the Palm Treo, right? I don't know how many of you remember this stuff. But the bottom line is we were just scratching the surface with this kind of technology, and I could sync my emails, but it was very clunky, and I couldn't initially. I remember I couldn't send emails from the device, but I could sync them, so at least I could read them. It was, it was insane compared to what we can do now. But the time came when I discovered Evernote, and I was like, wait a minute, Evernote, I can access my notes from anywhere, right? With OneNote, I was stuck to my desktop where OneNote was installed. So I was still tethered to my desktop when it came to Microsoft OneNote in those days. So I ended up switching to Evernote, but I never liked it. I hated leaving OneNote because OneNote had the formatting and the layout that Evernote always lacked and still lacks today. Evernote is, of course there's a lot you can do, and Evernote has come a long way, but nothing compared to what OneNote offered. So about 6 months ago, I want to say, when I checked out OneNote again, and I had a few times over the years, and it just wasn't there. The mobile access wasn't there. I checked it out maybe 6 months ago, and finally it had gotten there, right? I can open up my OneNote notebooks on my mobile device, and I can change something, and the sync it appears to be in real time. If it's not in real time, it's very quick. So I don't get conflicts, right? And then I tested it out, and I started setting up notebooks for customers. And, where Erica works on some of the customers, I shared a notebook with her, and it was cool. I'd come in the morning, and I could see that notebook title was bolded, meaning there had been updates in there, and I knew they weren't mine. And sure enough, I went in, and Erica had been in there making notes and creating check boxes and checking things off, and I could see what she had done. And you could see in OneNote you have an option to show the author, so you can see who made what changes in a note. So, of course, we're going to go through this and show you what this all looks like. But that's kind of the backstory behind why I'm back to OneNote and why we're here today discussing this. Are any of you using OneNote right now?
I live in OneNote.
Okay. Did you ever use Evernote? Have you always been in OneNote?
No, I was Evernote. And the only thing I miss about Evernote is I could scan to Evernote.
Mm-hmm.
I really miss that. But now I have a notebook for every client. I have one for my staff. I have one for research. I have one for my daily to-dos, and I have templates. I mean, I just keep it open all the time. We're doing policies and procedures in it, and they're going to share it with the clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool stuff.
One of the cool things that I figured out that I could do, and some of you have experienced this, is the way you can share a notebook. You can share like I just described the way I share with Erica, where I just put her email in. I'll show you how you do it. I'll go share my screen already. It's about time, right, Greg?
It's not 8:20 yet.
Oh, all right. Hold on. I'll stop screen sharing.
That's when my reminder pops up.
So if I go in here, and let's just pick on this notebook for a second, my scrap and quick notes. If I want to share this notebook, I simply put their email address in and invite them. And then I click share. Okay, and then I can choose. There's basically two levels of permission. Either they can edit or they can view, right? The other way is to get a sharing link, right? And you can get a view link or an edit link, right? So when I realized I could do a view link, I realized I could use OneNote to create a guide and put a view link out there so that people could access something by way of, let's say, like a 97 and up member guide, right? So I could put that out there. It's like a digital handbook for how to navigate our 97 and up program. And I could see where this would have a lot of benefits. Like Sarah was just touching on, if I want to create sort of a manual, it could be like an employee manual. It could be a manual for customers for how they, navigate our system. In my case, I could see using that to, show them, the apps that we use with them, that we collaborate with them. Here's how we use Smartsheet. Here's how we use Slack, those kinds of things. The basic stuff that you can think of, I can see this being a powerful tool to that end. So that's what I did with the 97 and up users guide, which you can see right here, 97 and up members guide. I have an admin tab, which is password protected. That's just for me to make notes, stuff that nobody else needs to see. But here, right in Welcome to 97 Up, we have Start here. Okay, and this took me a minute to figure out how to do. You see the way I've got kind of sections sort of color coded, right? If we go here to the Slack page. Oh, that's good. Perfect timing to call me. If we go to the Slack page, I thought there was one that I did that was a little more colorful than this. But anyway, the bottom line is, how do you do this? You create a table on the page. And then, because I was trying to figure out, because I'd seen somebody else had these very colorful little boxes spread out around a OneNote page, and I couldn't figure out how they did it. So that's how I figured out they did it. So if we go here onto just a blank page, if I go to Insert, and I go to Table, and I could even just do a one-cell table, right? And then under the table tools, I have shading. So I can fill in, and obviously I have a whole color palette. I can fill in any color I want to make a colorful table.
Seth, can you kind of give us an overview? I don't know if hierarchy is the right.
Yeah, you mean like what I said at the beginning, how you have a notebook and then you have sections and then you have pages?
Yeah, you kind of talked about it esoterically. And
okay, sure. So let me create a new notebook. We'll add a notebook. We'll call it Zoom In. Let's just call it OneNote Sample. Okay, so this is a notebook. This is kind of the highest level, so to speak, of the hierarchy, right? As I create a notebook, and the notebook is, think of a notebook that you would actually buy in the supermarket if you needed like a 5-subject notebook to go take a class, right? Excuse me. Still not 100% over my cold, I guess. So here's the notebook OneNote sample. Here's my section, new section 1. So this would be section 1, how to navigate OneNote. And over here you have a page. So page level 1. And you can have subpages. So if I add a page here, I can click and drag this, right? And I can go another level deep, at least I know. Right? I think that's as far as you can go. I don't think I can go. Yeah, so that's as far as you can go in terms of levels. So that's kind of the hierarchy. You have the notebook, you have a section, and then you have 3 levels of pages you can do to keep things organized. One thing that's annoying is if I want to move these, you would want it to assume that any subpages would come with it. They don't. It kind of orphans them if you do it. What you can do, and as you can see, it's pretty easy to fix, but you can Control-click to select them all, and then they'll move together. Right? And of course, pulling something out of the hierarchy is as simple as dragging it back to the left like that.
So, okay, I'm trying to follow along on the other side of my screen here. And my interface looks different than yours.
Your sections are probably on the right instead of the left?
No. Mine I don't even have a file menu.
Oh, because you're using the app and not the actual full application. You're using like there's two different kinds of OneNote. So you want to make sure to get the full feature set, you want to make sure you're not using the OneNote app, you're using OneNote 2016. So, because you're probably getting, it's really like the desktop version of the mobile app,
Yeah.
which is under apps here when I go to access them. So yours probably looks a little more like this.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm looking at.
Yep. So that's the difference. You want to make sure you get the full-fledged application, not just the app. Because I was playing with that. And actually, there's some aspects of that version that I like better in terms of the layout. But as you just pointed out, you're also missing a lot of the features in that version. Right? Like from the Home tab, you won't get all the tag options. And speaking of tag options, one of the things I liked about Evernote that I was worried about with OneNote is tagging. But OneNote's tagging, I think, is actually better. You can customize the tags with different kinds of icons. Hang on, I see the chat lighting up here. Sarah says, I have 3 online Win 10 and 2016 desktop. Desktop is the best. Yeah, the full desktop app is definitely, it's just got all the features. Kevin is on the Facebook feed saying he uses OneNote every day, but for Mac, which seems to have way less features. Yeah, welcome to the world of trying to use a Microsoft application on a Mac. I think, for Macs, you might actually be better off with Evernote. Evernote was kind of built for Mac originally. One of the things that made me crazy. All right, so everybody cool with the... let me show you how I got the sections on my left, because if you are in the full desktop application, it won't be like that. The sections will be on the right. That always sort of drove me crazy. I found out how to do this to mimic a little bit the version that Greg is using. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Options. And it might take me a minute to find this because it's been a while since I found it and set it, but I think it's the display. Here, page tabs appear on the left. So that will not be checked off by default. If you check that off, it will move everything over to the left in terms of the pages. So, and I always say this with every application you ever use, and I'll say it here, always, 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 take the time and go into your options and play with it and see what every option there is out there for you to take advantage of. And ask yourself that question, what does this do? What can I do with this? Is this something I like better? What's in the proofing options, right? What about the sync? I can sync them automatically or manually, right? Save and backup. Looks like there's different folder settings I can choose. So take the time, if you're going to use an app, especially one like this, that if you're using it, it's the type of thing you're going to tend to end up using every day. You should really take the time to go through your options and understand what you can do, where things can go. I played around with putting it in a different location, but guess what? If you want your notebook syncing so that you have web access and syncing in real time, you got to leave your notebooks in the OneDrive folder, right? It's the whole mobile experience, and syncing is designed to work around OneDrive. So you're kind of stuck with that. I tried moving them to Google Drive, and it sort of broke the connection. They won't sync, right? I imagine there might be a way to get it to sync it to my location in Google Drive, but at that point, it wasn't worth it. I was like, forget it. I'll live with it. It doesn't matter. I'm never going to care really where the notebook is actually located. I was thinking in terms of a backup, but the truth is, if it's syncing to the cloud, it's backed up, right? So I don't need to worry about that. Can I attach notes to ClickUp? Sure, because I could go on the web version, and I can, once I'm in the web version, I'm in a browser, I can attach anything from a browser into ClickUp. But if anything, what I think I might be more inclined to do is, because one thing you can do that's really cool is I can copy a link to this page, right? So I'll just call this special page. That's my very special page. And I'm going to right-click the page here, copy a link to page, and then that link will open up in my browser into the web version of OneNote. Once I'm in the web version, I'll be given an option to kind of go back into the desktop. So when I paste that link in here, I have to sign into OneDrive, of course. And it took me a minute, but I figured out how to get OneDrive working with my company email. Now I got to log into LastPass. So in order to access on the web, obviously you have to be, but see how it took me right to the same page here, and that link I generated was just to this page, so that's all I'm going to see. And I think when I click Premium, no, that's to look at your version of OneNote. Here, so Edit Notebook. I can edit in Microsoft OneNote. That will take me right back into the desktop app. But going back to the question, can I add this to ClickUp? Well, sure. Once I'm here, I've got the page open in my browser. Then I can use my ClickUp extension and create a task with it. So how do we set this up for an accounting firm? You know, like I was saying, this might be, and let's change the properties, a notebook called Client X. And what I love about this, and some of you are going to love me for saying this, some of you are going to hate me for saying this, but now you can have at it all day. Usually my first section would be something like admin and general, right? And I usually will have a tab for a client called Inbox, because you can pretty easily, you can forward to OneNote, right? And so I forward emails to OneNote pretty much daily. But when I do that, you have to set a default notebook for where those will go. So I'll show you where that is, how you can set that up. So I have it in my Scrap and Quick Notes. It's not easy to find, I'm not going to lie, but that's why I put this page in my Scrap and Quick Notes, because it's the first notebook in my list. I've set it up that way. And I literally have a note called Where to Update Your Default Notebook. And one of the reasons for that is now I can be on any planet, so to speak, right? I can be in my courses notebook. And by the way, I love the search in OneNote. Okay, but Control E is a quick way to access the search. I can type default notebook, and it finds it. So clicking there from the search, I'm right back here. And here's the web address. It's onenote.com/email settings. And that will take you to the page that shows you exactly where that is. For some reason, it's making me sign in again, and it's not giving me my LastPass options. That is both weird and annoying. All right, all I need to do is give it my email. And this is the page where I actually go. Maybe that's why it made me kind of log in again, because it's also notebook specific. I have notebooks that are tied to my Nerd Enterprises email, and notebooks that are tied to my Windows Live email. And going back to the Facebook Live feed, Tiffany, yes, I did switch from OneNote. That's where I started. I told you the whole backstory of why we're here today discussing this, and I explained why I kind of switched from Evernote back to OneNote. So here in this page, you have to be logged into your account, and you have to be logged into the specific Microsoft account that's associated with your notebook. And here you'll be able to, from this drop-down, choose where your notes go when you forward an email. Okay. Now the email has to be forwarded from that same email address that's associated with your notebook, with your OneNote account. Okay. That's important because you're just going to forward the email to me@onenote.com. That's where you forward it to, me@onenote.com. And as long as you forward it from the right email address, it will land in whatever default notebook you define here. So notice I have a notebook called Nerd HQ, and then within that, I have a section called Inbox, right? And then what I do, pretty much every day at some point in my process, and I used to do something similar in Evernote. I'm going to pull this off screen for a second so I don't kind of reveal anything confidential while I'm going there. But in the search, I can type Nerd HQ, of course, and then I can make sure that I'm in the inbox. All right, perfect. So I come in here, and this is a good example. So this is an email I get every week from Rick Richardson called Technology This Week, right? So I want to get this from this location into the notebook where I keep this kind of stuff. So one of the things I love about this is under the View menu, we go to New Window. So I get a copy of this same window. I'm going to drag that off to my other screen for a second and find a notebook where I do want this to go. I think it's called Education something. Or it might even be called Reading. Yep, I have a notebook called Reading and Learning. And within that notebook, I have a tab here called Technology This Week. So you can see this is where I've stacked. I actually have a bunch more to go back and grab, but I started doing this in no, that's not, the 5 doesn't mean May, that's just the issue number. But all I have to do now is, and Windows trick, got to give Greg props for this. He kind of revived this for me. On my keyboard, the Windows button and the left arrow will dock that. And now I can select this one to put them side by side. And here's issue 538. So I can just drag that over. It's being a little touchy here. Let's try this again. Usually it works very well.
There's no just move?
I think there is, yeah, move or copy, but much clunkier because now you have to browse to the notebook, right? Much easier to, for some reason when I try to drag this over now, it just keeps grabbing. There it goes. I can see from the line that it's going to go. It's funniest thing. I swear to God, this is never this difficult. So I just dropped it here for a second. Now I'll move it down. Now we'll do issue 540. It looks like I'm missing issue 539, but there it is. So that's how easy it is to drag. Yes, I could have, if I wanted to move this note, I don't even know what this, if I wanted to move this note here, I could right-click and choose Move or Copy. And the search actually works pretty well. If I wanted to start typing technology this week, it does find it. I swear to God, it's normally much easier to drag and drop, but given what you've just seen, you'll probably think this is going to be easier. So the other thing is, a lot of times I don't remember exactly what I called the notebook where I want it to go. So I often do it this way just because I first want to browse. And by the way you're seeing my view, you can pin all your notebooks so that you always see them like this. I just choose not to because it takes up real estate, right? But so what happens is every time I forward an email to OneNote, it shows up here in this Nerd HQ inbox, and then I just drag it to whatever notebooks it goes to, or I can right-click and move it. So I can move it into the appropriate client's notebook in the case where it's for a client. So going back to my sample, so in title sample, no, what did I call it again? See, my memory's going. See, I am turning 60 soon. I'm losing my memory. Is it OneNote training? No. See, this is what I mean. The other way, of course, is it's the most recent notebook I created. So here it is, Client X. That's right, I renamed it. So we have an admin general. I'll have an inbox because when I don't know where to stick a note for a client, I'll stick it there. I have an attorney, a personal injury attorney client. So for him, I have a section for open settlements and for closed settlements because they'll send me the disbursement information, right? And yeah, I could add that into ClickUp. But, as I often say, right tool for the right job, I like having something like that in a platform like this where I can kind of spread out with it, right? I don't want it in this small enclosed little task in my window. I want to be able to have a full page view of what's going on with those settlement statements. So that's one of the reasons why when it comes to certain things, I'd much rather put them in OneNote than in anything like ClickUp. And it's not that ClickUp is in any way lacking. We've taken a deep look. We've seen how it handles beautifully attaching documents and screenshots of things from the web. But again, when I'm dealing with something like a settlement disbursement for a big case, I prefer to have a full screen view of what I'm doing with that. So it's hard for me to tell you what your structure should be in your notebook for your client because it's going to depend a lot on the client. But if you're really stuck and need some sort of guidance, what I would probably be inclined to suggest is the way I always tend to structure these things. Model it after the balance sheet, right? Have a section for banking, have a section for accounts receivable, have a section for sales tax, for payroll. You know, if you need some kind of a structure to start with, at least I would start there. I always start with the balance sheet as the guideline for how I structure any kind of accounting engagement, because at the end of the day, as an accountant, I know that the way that I need to put any customer's books together is based on the sort of principle of constructing, compiling, whatever you want to call it, the balance sheet, right? That at the end of the day, that's my final product, is an accurate and reliable balance sheet, and of course the P&L and statement of cash flows that go along with that. But the focal point for me is always the balance sheet, because if I can put the balance sheet together and get that right, everything else is pretty much going to be right. You know, a little bit of tweaking maybe on the P&L for classification purposes at the most. Any questions? Everybody's quiet. Facebook feed is quiet. Sarah's on the phone with Intuit, making facial expressions. She looked. So, of course, we can attach files to this. It handles that very well. It's especially good with Office-type documents, right? So if you drag an Excel file onto this, let me see if I can find one quickly as an example, or we can just make one. Excel 2016, man. I don't know. Sometimes I have to click it twice to get it to wake up.
You know what's weird to me, and this is why I'm so quiet, is I'm trying to get my own thing to even show that desktop app, and it's just like yours is now. It's just giving me the 365 option.
Oh, you mean like it's not giving you the full application. It wasn't easy to find. I had to Google several times to get the right one. But if I remember correctly, what you have to Google is specifically OneNote 2016. Let me see if I can find it. Because I remember I kept searching OneNote and not kind of finding what I needed. But if you search OneNote 2016, and you might even want to do download in the search.
So, okay, I just found something. Change the default version of OneNote on your computer.
But I think this is the one you would want. Install or reinstall OneNote 2016 for Windows.
But check this out. There's a note on here.
On where?
Microsoft's website.
Mm-hmm.
It says, important, we are no longer developing new features for OneNote 2016.
Okay. Well, then what they really should do is completely flesh out
OneNote for Windows 10.
Huh?
It says it wants you to switch to OneNote for Windows 10.
Okay.
So here, me.
The bottom line, though, is it's great that they're not developing for this anymore, and this is classic Microsoft. This is why people don't switch from Evernote to OneNote and from any other thing to any Microsoft thing, is because Microsoft is notorious for this kind of stuff. But I would still say, if you can get it, use the full app, because what they haven't done yet is they haven't fleshed out the app to include all the features, right? This looks a lot like the web experience, and I do love this better because I love the way it organizes your notebook and then the sections and then the pages. I love this layout much better, but it just gives me a handful of my tag options, which is just weird. It's like, why would you even do that, or not put some kind of a notification here that says, this is limited, because look at the difference. When I'm in the full app, I have everything. And I can customize tags all day long. In this version, I don't even think I can customize tags. I can create a new one I can't customize existing ones. So it's just very limited in terms of features. The layout is 10 times better, but the features are very limited. So I guess what I'm hoping is if they're not developing for the full-fledged application anymore, that they better get caught up on this one, you know, and get all the features in here. So for me, I am certainly sticking with this version until they come up with another version that they're developing for that has everything this has.
Have you ever tested it out to see that your tags that you put in your 2016 OneNote, that they relay into the...
Yeah, it'll translate. So if you create them in the full version and then go into the other version, you'll see all the tags there. Pretty sure. If I go, well, I closed it already because I wanted to get back to embedding a file, but here, let me see that real quick. So here's my scrap. I may not have used any, so let me see what happens if I take my special page and I'll use my draft tag. And I'll put my password tag on that. Okay, then what we want to do is sync the notebook. So you can force a sync, which I always like. Okay, that's done. Let's sync it on this end. Oh, and here I have to actually, sorry, it wasn't my scrapping quick notes. I have to open up my client X on this one. So more notebooks, client X, not found. I'm probably in the wrong account here. No, it's Seth at Nerd Enterprises. I might have to sync all. Oh, I think in here it's going to have the original notebook name, not what I changed it to. So it's going to be probably this one. But let me open them both just to be sure. Yeah, see, so it's got those tags here, but I still can't access them from this list. I can't access my password tag, nor can I access my draft tag. It'll show them, but I can't do anything with them on this version.
It says that you could create a new tag.
Yeah, I can create a new one. But it's again, it's weak, right? It should be a consistent experience on both ends.
Yeah.
And in the past, this is why I'd stayed away from OneNote and switched to Evernote. Sarah's asking a question in the chat, but I don't think she's talking about OneNote. I think she's talking about QuickBooks. So anyway, I won't.
know where to download the 2016 now because apparently I don't have it, and I thought that I did.
Yeah, I try to look for this one. Install or reinstall OneNote 2016 for Windows. I think this is the one. It has to say, I think, OneNote 2016 for Windows. And this has to be it, because it even says we're no longer developing new features for OneNote 2016. If you want to take advantage of the latest that OneNote has to offer, consider switching to OneNote for Windows 10. For more information, see the difference.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll just...
So clearly, this is the OneNote for Windows 10. But it's fascinating to me that they say, well, we're not developing for the thing that's got all the robust features, so you should consider switching to the scaled-down version that we have, and maybe we'll catch it up someday to the one you're used to. I mean, it's so stupid. It's like forcing people to downgrade. It's crazy, I tell you. It's crazy. All right, I'm going to open up a file just for fun. See if I can find something quickly. Let's go to browse. Let's go to my G drive, courses, basics. Here, this is a fun one. All right, so this is like a sample database just for kicks. I just want to save it and embed it to OneNote. All right, just checking the chat here. I'm going to just stick this on my desktop real quick. And we'll go to the desktop. And then I'll drag it over to my special page. And you can either attach it, or you can actually insert the spreadsheet. It kind of embeds it in the page, or insert a charter table. So I'm saying attach file. And it's already syncing. I think that's kind of one of the standards. If I attach a file, it will automatically sync it right away. And now if I go to open it from here, it warns me attachments could be harmful. Okay, but it's Excel. I'm good. And then it'll open, and I can run it right off of this page and save it. And so it stays on this page, which is great if I'm going to collaborate with somebody on this. I can share this notebook with them with this file embedded. But again, with something like this, if that's going to be your process, you still have to be very careful about conflicts. And also the fact that it's a little clunky in terms of whether or not and how it actually opens. Let's try it again. Okay, so it doesn't like the file now for some reason. And by the way, I don't use this like this. I don't embed Excel files typically. I hope to show you that you could do it. We'll try it one more time. Let it sync up. It's basically going to stick a copy of this file in OneDrive. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It won't open it. It opens up very nicely from my Windows Explorer folder, I'm sure. There it is.
But that link location was a temp file space.
Well, again, it sticks it in OneDrive because OneDrive is sort of the focal point where it syncs from, and that's how it ties it between your desktop and the cloud. If you go into your OneDrive folder, Documents, maybe even Attachments. I know I saw it somewhere in here. I started to recognize, yeah, these are actually all my OneNote notebooks. Anyway, the bottom line on this is I rely very heavily on the search because it works really well. And I rely very heavily on just, I have a notebook for every client. And then within that client's notebook, I just create the sections as appropriate and as needed for that client. And it's worked really well for me so far, like much better than Evernote. Evernote, I was starting to find it very difficult to find information, especially as I had accumulated a lot of it. And if I'm done with a particular client, if the client has gone another way, all I have to do is right-click and close the notebook, and it's out of my way, but I never lose it. It's always there. It stays on the OneNote, the OneDrive server, so I could access that information if I ever want to get back to it again. But I certainly don't need to keep this list cluttered up with every client I've ever had. right? So I guess I need to think about getting back used to using this version. You can also easily reorder the notebooks by clicking and dragging. That works in both apps. And by the way, this version is very consistent with the mobile app, the way your mobile app is laid out on your mobile devices.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any limit to the number of notebooks? It isn't like Evernote have like 256 notebooks that you're limited to.
Yeah, I think such a limit exists for Evernote. I'm not aware of the limit for OneNote. I imagine there might be a point at which, it's like I had an interesting conversation yesterday with a guy from Liscio, actually. I had another look at the Liscio app. And I bring it up because we talked about that a little bit, because I was asking him questions like, are there limits to how many documents and things I can have in there? Is there a bandwidth limit? Is there a total storage limit? He says, no, there's no limits. But he said, and this is very smart, he said that in their terms of service, they have like I forget what he called it. It was a very clever term that basically referred to how, as long as you're using it in the way it was intended to be used, right? Like he said, if you start using it as a video file storage server, they're gonna ding you, right? So I think within reason, you probably won't hit any limits on this. If you start putting huge video files in there, you probably run into a problem somewhere, right? But if anything, you're going to run into a problem because your OneDrive account probably has some storage limit, right? Most of the stuff you're going to put in these notebooks doesn't take up much space. If you're putting PDFs and Word and Excel docs, those aren't large files, right? So you're probably not going to hit any limits as far as that. So, but the one limit I'm aware of for sure that exists that ties into this is that OneDrive, which is where everything kind of goes that's associated with OneNote, has its limits in terms of how much storage you're allowed. And then it's, I'm sure you could upgrade your OneDrive account to allow for more storage if you need to. But my thinking is if you hit any limits using this in kind of like a normal use case kind of way with just keeping information about your customers in here, I'd be surprised if you ever hit any limits,
How about the security?
Well, it's Microsoft, so if you trust Microsoft and their capabilities, big company, big data, obviously can a breach happen? Absolutely. We've seen them happen. They're going to happen, right? But I trust Microsoft security probably better than I trust my own security here in my home, if you know what I mean. It always goes back to that these days. These companies are they kind of live and die by their reputations on this kind of thing. So if all of a sudden Microsoft had a bunch of breaches, they're going to end up being like Dropbox was years ago, where years ago Dropbox had a series of breaches and everybody abandoned Dropbox because they were like, okay, I can't, one breach I think people can live with, especially if they see the company being responsible and jumping on it and being transparent about it and telling people what happened and what they're doing about it. When it happens a few times in succession, then people start to lose confidence, right? But I'm sure if you Google, I often do this, I'll Google, like the application and the word security. So let's do that here.
Share your screen.
I will in a second. I just had other stuff on there that I didn't want to share.
I wish I could share some of my OneNotes, but I couldn't find anything that really wasn't confidential.
Yeah, of course, because the nature of it is going to be that way. But like I was saying, I almost don't want to share anything like that because I don't want to sway people one way or the other. I think you really have to build the structure client by client based on what the needs are and what you're doing for that client. I can't give you a template for this. It's like, who is it? For a period of time, it was Laura Sabay. She was asking me for like a template for everything. She wanted a template for how to enter a HUD-1, and I'm like, there's no way to create a template for how to enter a HUD-1 because every one is going to be different.
Every one of my OneNotes is different.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Absolutely. It's going to be. Even like from one, if I decide to specialize in PI attorney clients, even among them, it's going to be different from one to the next, right? It just depends. This one particular one that I'm working with now that I'm using OneNote a lot with, he loves to text me stuff. And I've already told him, if you text me something, count on me dropping that ball. I told him that. I said, there is no way I can be counted on to follow up on any information you send me via text. If you want to send me information that's important to your accounting, texting is not the way to send it to me. Which, by the way, my friend Chris at Liscio made a very good case for Liscio in that context, because if you have clients that want to text you, the Liscio mobile app kind of very easily and quickly replaces, so you can train your clients and say, if you're going to text me something, just go into the Liscio mobile app and send it to me that way. It works almost the same as texting, but then it goes into the Liscio world where I have a way to actually grab that information. I can read it because it's not some sloppy photo of a document. It's, it's sent in a text and taken with a mobile device, and I can turn that into a task and work with it. I was very sort of sold on Liscio yesterday when I had another look at it.
I love the mobile part of it. It's really pretty.
I haven't looked too close.
It's pretty.
Yeah,
I think it's
So
pretty.
I love it.
yeah. I haven't looked at it that closely, but I had a good demo of it yesterday. The last demo I had of it was not that great. It didn't look to me like it did what I now understand it can do. So now I have to have a talk with Erica about looking at it again. But here,
Let's see on ClickUp to get married.
yeah, I was kind of
Wow.
telling him that yesterday. When I Google OneNote Security, right away the first page is on the support for office.com website, right? It encrypts protected sections. By the way, I use that a lot. I have a lot of protected sections in my notebooks where you have a different password to unlock those. So secured mobility, unlike a computer password which controls access to your computer but does not protect the individual file stored on it, OneNote password protection remains with your notebook file. I'm just trying to see if there's quickly a page that talks about the level of encryption they use. I would imagine it's AES 256. That's pretty standard, which is your bank level encryption. I would think it had to be. And if you want to know how to delete a notebook, you have to go on the website of OneNote. So you have to kind of log in on the web, because from the app, I showed you a few minutes ago how you can close a notebook. I can right-click and choose Close It. If I really want to delete it, from here I can go to, actually not even from here. You really have to log into OneNote on the web. Actually, what you could do is you could find the notebook in OneDrive, and I'm pretty sure you can delete it that way if you want to stay on a local path. Because I'm not going to lie, it's a bit of a pain in the butt to find and delete them on the web, because initially if you go to OneNote on the web, it's going to take you into your OneNote app on the web, where you have to go actually into your OneDrive settings. So, and sorry, I'll come back. I don't want to make this about Liscio. Today's is about OneNote. I'm going to bring them on to a Zoom and have them do a demo. So we'll get plenty of coverage on Liscio, but I don't want to get into too much of a rabbit hole on that one. But just because I see Stuart is asking in the chat, it's spelled Liscio. Thanks, Katrina, for that. So here are my OneNote notebooks and documents. I think if you go to OneDrive on the web, and of course you have to be logged into your account. So as I often like to say, pay attention to what planet you're on. And I say that not to be snarky, but because I've had this experience over and over again where I'll give instructions like this and somebody will email me and say, I can't find it. And then I go back and forth with them for 2 hours only to find out that they weren't actually logged into their account. So go to my OneDrive. Okay, and then here's documents, and now you can see, so here I can actually permanently delete a notebook, right? So you select them and choose delete. So this, and I'm pretty sure if you did it locally in the folder here, that would also permanently delete it. But I'd be careful about deleting them altogether. Why not just leave it there? They don't take up a lot of space. So I would err on the side of just leaving it there, because you never know. This way it's there if you need it. As long as it's not costing you anything to keep it there, why not? From the app, you can just close the notebook so you don't have to look at it. And that's my story and I'm sticking to it. And since we're up at the end of our time, LISCIO, Liscio, as Katrina mentions in the chat, mention this group when you speak to Chris or mention me, right? I had a really good chat online with him yesterday. He's a really good guy. I like him a lot. So my concern, I should say the last time I looked at it before yesterday, was that it wasn't very robust in terms of the messaging side. I was looking for it to replace Slack if I was going to take it on. From what he showed me yesterday, I saw exactly how it can replace Slack. My only concern was being able to retrieve information about a conversation later on. Slack, with its channels, makes that very easy to organize and do. But he kind of showed me how you can quickly filter it for who the conversation would have been with and then search by subject. So if I wanted to see what was I discussing with so-and-so about inventory, I filter it for so-and-so and I search inventory. And I can see all the dialogue in Liscio that I've had with that person about the subject of inventory. So a little quick segue over to Liscio. My little takeaway from today, a couple of you are diving deep and becoming diehards of OneNote, but I don't get the impression this is like mind-blowing for a lot of you. But Liscio maybe. So I'm going to talk to him about coming on and presenting it.
The problem with OneNote, and the reason I never got into it, was they just give you like a blank screen. It's sort of like, here's write a program. So you really don't know until you like dive into videos. Or I took that class at Accountex. And when I saw all the cool stuff it was doing, then I got. And then once you get going.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what kind of a mind you have. Because I have the kind of mind where I'm going to figure out how I want to lay it out. I like having a blank canvas, and I'm going to fill that canvas in and figure out how I want to. But I didn't realize
what all the cool stuff that it did.
Yeah.
Some people just want to open it up and then.
Yeah, they just want the template, and they just want to go put stuff into the template. I think it's a lot more fun and interesting to kind of figure that out. And I'm notorious for using apps in ways they weren't meant to be used, and seeing what I can do to break the thing.
I do the screenshot a lot. I was on the phone, so you might have mentioned it. Where you insert.
Yeah, I didn't actually, but yeah, I do that too. I take a lot of screenshots with it.
A lot of that.
That works really well. You just right-click the app from your dock. I'll just quickly show that, and then I got to run because I got a demo actually of another product that I'm supposed to do. You just right-click the app and go take a screen clipping. I can't for the life of me figure out where. I guess it's Windows Shift S. But there's a place you used to be able to go where you could change what that hotkey was, and I can't find it anymore.
Yeah.
But I guess the default is Windows Shift S. There was a time when OneNote was wanting to take over my hotkey for, I think it was Evernote, to take a screen
you do it there.
Yeah. This is how I do it.
I have the page, like say I'm doing a little procedures thing. I'll start a page, and I hit insert, and then I click screen clipping, and then on my other monitor I just
I got you.
Hit enter, and it's in my page. It's on my page.
Yeah, if I just do it this way, it kind of freezes up the whole screen, and then I can choose the area. Right. And then the other thing I've learned is and actually I don't even know where that screenshot just went.
See, that's why I start with the OneNote.
See, but what I've learned is when I do it the way I do it, it usually sticks it on the same page, which is probably at the very bottom of this page. Let me see. That's probably, no, it's not. I don't know what the heck just happened there. So usually what I'll do though is I'll just create a new blank page.
New page, insert.
And then, no, watch. Then I'll right click, take screen clipping.
Oh.
And then I'll just do that. And yeah, this time it worked. Right? So now I got a perfect screen.
Boom. Okay. Yeah.
And then I can right-click and save this out to a local folder as a PNG file as the default format.
Right. That's cool.
All right. I got to run. I'm late for another call.
Y'all have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.